Alrighty, guys, we're hitting at 61% in our last 40 NFL tier package bets on my website. And I'll include a link for this week's NFL tier package bets in the description section below. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to our NFL Week 12 video here for the 2022 season. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And if you find yourself enjoying this video here today, please feel free to give it a thumbs up by smashing that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please feel free to hit that subscribe button as well. I love to connect with you on a daily basis. Now, guys, there's 3 games this week on the NFL slate that I'm betting on personally. And if you want to find out what those games are, like I said earlier, I'll include a link to my NFL tier package bets on my website in the description section below. Once again, guys, I'm hitting at 61% in my last 40 bets in that package. And just a reminder here, guys, if you sign up for that membership here today, you're going to get access to that package for the next 30 days. And of course, as an added bonus, just because I like you, you're also going to get access to all my cheaper memberships on that site absolutely free. They'll be included with your purchase, and after the day you sign up, the plays just go right to your email, so you can access them in your email or on the website. It's really your preference. If you don't like watching these videos and you just want written picks, that's the way to do it. Patreon. Now, I currently have over 625 members who are signed up and active on my site right now. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into some Turkey Day action. We're going to start off with the Bills at the Lions, 12:30 Eastern kickoff on Thanksgiving. Now, Buffalo's minus 9.5, totals 54. The Bills are scoring over 28 points a game, and they're also in the top 3 in passing. Josh Allen's thrown for over 2,900 yards already, and he ranks 3rd in QBR. Meanwhile, Stephon Diggs is over 1,000 yards receiving himself. He's averaging 103 yards a game. Now, they're facing a horrible Detroit defense who allows more points per game than any other team in the league. The Lions are also dead last in total yards allowed. Now, injury-wise, whole bunch of guys questionable for the Lions. Williams, Lucas, Reynolds, Pascal, Harris, Ragnow, Jackson, Brown, and Chark, they're all listed as questionable. Meanwhile, Okuda is out. He's been ruled as out. Meanwhile, for Buffalo on the other side, a lot of guys banged up for them as well. White, Stevens, Edmonds, Epinesa, Quesenberry, Allen, and Morse, they're all listed as questionable for them. When it comes to the total, Buffalo saw their last 2 straight get over the number. Overs against the likes of Cleveland and Minnesota. Meanwhile, Detroit 70% to the over for the whole year themselves. I'm going to lean toward Buffalo minus 9.5, over 54. Next ball game, Giants at the Cowboys, 4:30 p.m. East. Dallas is minus 9 with the total at 45.5. Now, the Cowboys won 7 out of their last 9, and they covered the number in 78% of those contests during that span. This Cowboy defense is allowing fewer points a game than any other team in the NFL. They also have the number 1 pass defense in the league. And a lot of that is thanks to this Cowboys pass rush. Micah Parsons has 10 sacks on the year, along with 3 forced fumbles and a scoop and score. Meanwhile, Dorrance Armstrong's got 7 sacks on the year himself and a handful of tackles for loss. Now, they're facing a Giants team on the other side who lost 2 out of their last 3. And they scored only 18 points a game on average during that very short span. Meanwhile, for most of the year, the G-men have been little threat throwing the football. New York's currently in the bottom 5 in passing yards per game. And of course, Daniel Jones, he's thrown only 9 touchdown passes this year. He hasn't even reached double-digit touchdowns. Now, injury-wise, Williams, Phillips, Pinnock, Feliciano, Moreau, Jackson, Ezidu, and James, they're all listed as questionable for New York. Meanwhile, for Dallas, Barr, Bohanna, Odegizawa, Zeke, Lawrence, Hankins, Joseph Fowler, and Basham, they're all listed as questionable for them. When it comes to the total, Dallas has gone 70% to the under this year. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, New York, they've gone 8-2 to the under in their last 10. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Dallas -9, under 45.5 in the tight window. Next ball game, the nightcap. I'm talking about Pats, Vikes, 8:20 Thursday night. Minnesota's -3, totals 42. And even though the Vikes have they've won a bunch of games this year, there are a couple problem areas that concern me. For one, they've established little to no run game with a great runner in the backfield. Minnesota's currently in the bottom 10 in the league right now in rush yards per game. Kind of tough to do with Dalvin Cook in your backfield. Meanwhile, defensively on the other side of the ball, these guys are allowing more yards a game through the air than any other team in the NFL except for one. They're facing a New England squad who quietly has won 5 out of their last 6, and they do a real nice job covering the point spread. Out of their last 9 ball games, the Pats covered 7 times. And most of that is thanks to some really tough defense. These guys are allowing just 16 points a game, and they're in the top 5 in passing defense. And Matthew Judon's been applying all the pressure to the quarterback this year. He currently leads the NFL with 13 sacks. Meanwhile, teammate Jawan Bentley, he's the team leader in tackles. Now, when it comes to the injury report, Wade, Andrews, Wynn, Uche, Jennings, and Parker, they're all questionable for New England. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, Ellefson, Tomlinson, Evans, Smith, Booth, and Dantzler, they're questionable for them. Darrisaw is out. When it comes to the total in this one, Minnesota saw 3 out of their last 5 stay under the line. New England went 60% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Pats +3, under 42. Next ball game, little Sunday action. I'm talking about the Texans at the Dolphins, 1 o'clock Sunday. Miami's the 13-point favorite at home, totals 46. And as good as the Fins are, well, they've been fairly one-dimensional on offense, relying on Tua. These guys are actually gaining only 97 yards a game on the ground. Meanwhile, when it comes to defensive play, Miami's actually in the bottom 10 in points allowed. They're facing a Houston squad who's covered the number against the likes of the Eagles, Jaguars, and Chicago. When it comes to defensive play, they're led by Jerry Hughes, who's 10th in the league in sacks with 8 of them. Now, teammate Jonathan Owens, he also has a team-best 90 tackles, so look for those guys to be all over the field. Now, injury-wise, Hewitt and Stingley are questionable for Houston. Excuse me. Meanwhile, for Miami, Ezekanma, Craycraft, Long, Crossan, and Teddy Bridgewater, they're also listed as questionable. So if Tua goes down or maybe gets another concussion, these guys could be in trouble at the quarterback position. Now, weather-wise, sunny and 82 degrees at kickoff in South Florida on Sunday. When it comes to the total, the Fins saw their last 3 straight get over the number. Houston saw overs against the likes of Philadelphia, Las Vegas, and the Chargers. I'm going to lean toward Houston +13, keeping this one close, over 46. Next matchup, Falcons, Commanders, 1 o'clock East. Washington's -3.5 in the nation's capital, totals 42. Now, the red-hot Commanders have covered in their last 6 straight. 5 straight-up victories during that span as well. These guys have actually done a really nice job on defense. They have a top 10 rush defense, and they're giving up fewer yards a game than most teams in the NFC. Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, they've combined for 13 sacks between the two of them. Meanwhile, Cole Holcomb leads the team in tackles with 69. Now, they're facing a Falcons team who's no threat to throw the football. They're actually throwing for just 154 yards a game, and only the Bears are worse than that. When it comes to covering the point spread, the Falcons failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5 weeks. Now, injury-wise, Mayfield and Franks are questionable. Pitts and Graham are out. Meanwhile, for Washington, Eifler, Young, and Mayo, they're listed as questionable for them. When it comes to the total, Washington went 6-2 to the under in their last 8. Meanwhile, Atlanta saw 5 out of their last 8 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Washington -3.5, under 42. Next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Buccaneers at the Browns, and that'll be a 1 o'clock Eastern start time in Cleveland. Tampa Bay's the 3.5-point favorite on the road, totals 43. And even though the Bucs got the W in their last 2 outings, These guys have been brutal against the point spread. They failed to cover in 7 out of their last 8, and they're actually dead last in the league right now in rushing yards. And I'll tell you this much, if that ain't bad enough, this Tampa Bay offense is scoring only 18 points a game. Now they're facing a Cleveland squad who, believe it or not, they have little to no problems getting on the scoreboard. These guys are actually in the top 10 in the NFL in points per contest, and they're rushing for over $150 a game. Of course, Nick Chubb, he's averaging nearly 5.5 yards a carry, and in addition to that, he's also scored 11 times on the ground. And with that type of rushing efficiency, it certainly opens up the passing game for you. Now, defensively, Myles Garrett, he leads the D-line with 8.5 sacks. When it comes to the injury report, Winfrey, Bell, and Newsome are questionable. Pocic is out. Meanwhile, for Tampa Bay, Bernard, Gage, Russell, and Fournette, they're listed as questionable for them. When it comes to the weather, windy and a 50% chance of rain by game time. Now, total-wise, Cleveland saw unders against the likes of the Bengals, Ravens, and Falcons. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay's 80% to the under for the year. No real surprise there with their offensive performances. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland plus 3.5, keeping this one close at home, under 43. Next ball game, Ravens at the Jaguars, 1 o'clock East. Baltimore's minus 3.5 on the road, totals 44. Now, the Ravens are on a 4-game winning streak, and they played some really tough defense during that stretch. They held their opponents to just 14 points a game during that time frame. Justin Houston's 5th in the league in sacks with 9 of them. Meanwhile, Patrick Queen and Chuck Clark, they have over 120 tackles. Now, no real surprise here, guys. The Ravens are in the top 3 in the league in rushing on offense. They're facing a Jacksonville defense who gives up just way too many yards. These guys are in the bottom 10 in yards allowed per game. Meanwhile, as a team, the Jaguars took the loss in 6 out of their last 7. They covered the number only 1 time during that stretch. Now, injury-wise, the Jags are actually relatively healthy at the moment. Meanwhile, for Baltimore on the other side, Kolar, Ojabo, Edwards, Bynes, Hamilton, and Stanley, they're all listed as questionable for them. When it comes to the number, Baltimore 70% to the under for the season. Meanwhile, Jacksonville saw their last 4 straight stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Baltimore minus 3.5, under 44. Next ball game, Broncos at the Panthers, 1 o'clock Eastern start time in Charlotte. Denver's the 3-point favorite on the road. Total is 36. Now we're looking at 2 very bad football teams in this one. The Broncos are scoring fewer points a game than any other team in the league. Meanwhile, for the Panthers on the other side, there's only one other team in the NFL right now who's gaining fewer yards a game than Carolina. I'll tell you this much, both offenses look like dog shit. Now, defensively, on the other side of the football, the Broncos just gave up 22 points to Las Vegas in a loss last week. Meanwhile, Carolina's having a tough time slowing down the run. So a lot of negatives on both teams. Probably wouldn't look for these guys to, either of these teams to make a playoff run down the home stretch here. Now, injury-wise, Edmonds, Beck, and Judy are questionable for Denver. Meanwhile, for Carolina, Burris, Higgins, Walker, Ricci, Ioannidis, and Hartsfield, they're all listed as questionable for them. When it comes to the weather, it should be a really nice day. Sunny and 61 in downtown Charlotte on Sunday. When it comes to selecting a winner, this game's being featured as one of my NFL tier package bets on my website this week. So if you want to see whether I'm making a bet on the money line total or point spread in this one, there's only one way to find out, and that's to sign up for my NFL tier package bets on my website. And once again, guys, I'll include a link for you in the description section below. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, can't give you one. Next matchup, it is going to be Bears at the Jets, 1 o'clock East. And even though this doesn't seem like an interesting matchup, we already have some midweek drama, and I'll get to that in just a second. Now, for right now, I'm sure this line's going to move, but for now, the New York Jets are -5, totals 39.5. Now, the Jets lost 2 out of their last 3, and it does look like they're going to bench Zach Wilson. He lost his starting job. Looks like they're going to go with Mike White. Just saw it breaking on the herd. Looks like Wilson is being replaced. They lost faith in him. He lost the locker room. Wilson threw for under 1,300 yards this year and only 4 touchdowns. And no real shock, guys. The Jets are in the bottom 5 in total yards per game. Now they're facing a Chicago defense. They're facing a Chicago defense who does a real nice job slowing down the passing attack. So I can't imagine the Jets are going to be a great threat throwing the ball. But even if they do commit to passing, Chicago's got a top 10 pass defense, and they're allowing only 196 yards a game through the air. Now, Eddie Jackson has a team best 4 interceptions on the season. He's also combined with Jaquan Brisker for 150 tackles on the year. And when it comes to covering, the Bears successfully covered against the likes of Miami, Minnesota, and Houston. When it comes to the injury report, Carter, Cruikshank, Harry, Gordon, and Fields, they're all listed as questionable. Meanwhile, for the Jets, Mitchell, Davis, Rankins, Yeboah, and Carter are questionable for them. Now, weather-wise, could be a rainy one in East Rutherford, looking at a 70% chance of showers at kickoff. When it comes to the total, New York saw their last 5 straight stay under the line. Chicago saw unders against the likes of Washington, the New York Jets, and Green Bay. I'm going to lean toward the Bears +5, keeping this one close, under 39.5. With that, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for Part 1. It is going to be Bengals at the Titans, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Cincinnati's the 1.5-point favorite, totals 42. Now, the Bengals won 6 out of their last 8, and they're doing a great job throwing the football. Joe Burrow's in the top 3 in the league in passing yards and touchdowns. He's facing one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. The Titans are currently in the bottom 3 in slowing down the pass. When it comes to offensive production, Tennessee's scoring just 19 points a game, and they're one of the worst passing teams in the NFL. They're in the bottom 3 in throwing the football right now. Now, injury-wise, Hooker, Dupree, Molden, Jones, Bullock, and Fulton are questionable. Meanwhile, for Cincy, Topu, Evans, Hill, Smith, and Mixon, they're all listed as questionable for them. Now, weather-wise, beautiful day for football in Nashville. 55 degrees and mostly sunny at game time. When it comes to the total, Tennessee went 6 and 1 to the under in their last 7. Meanwhile, Cincy went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Bengals -1.5, under 42.